fatal heart impacts, past painful scars. In fact, I blast tasteful bars and pass. I back up my actions, fact don't ask, grab reactions, jacked attack with every word, then act with class as they hear me snap. I got nothing to lose, cause I fought and felt the bruise. Now I'm not the one confused, call the shots and they produce. I ain't lost, I'm finally loose. Pick a new silver excuse, I need the views to boost me to a new abuse of being used. Everybody wants a piece now, y'all can rest in peace now. You're dead to me, so peace out. Remember, you're discreet out. Get ready for defeat now.
Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Kirusho here, and now, whenever we last left off, Izuku, he has found himself in a different place. Midoriya, after his battle with the man who raised him, found himself chased away by his former friends and family, and he fell into a river, where he washed up on shore and was found by a family. Now, with that all happening, Midoriya fell sick, and during this time it is believed that he had hallucinations of a monster stalking him. However, Midoriya just found that to be odd. Whenever he was looking outside of his window one day, and there was a scratch mark at the top of the glass, a place no normal person could reach. Now, with that being said, Izuku Midoriya, we do have roughly a few days later, or let us say weeks. Midoriya has noticed that there does seem to be little to no activity pertaining to this supposed monster. Sometimes there's a strange sound outside, and if you really want to call it that or just be paranoid, you could say that it was the monster possibly. Otherwise, there really wouldn't be any sound. Now, along with that, Midoriya has tried going into the village with Mina's father, trying to find any work that he could do. Right now, the farmland is suffering, and things are going to be getting a lot worse. They do not know when the cold season will be over, as they do call it, but they just have to wait and see. Now, with that being said, we do have a few months later, where Midoriya is closer to the age of 11. And there is today. After the harsh winter has passed, it is now closer to the season for harvesting. Some of the plants were lost in the cold. However, a good portion has survived. And the village, they themselves have had their own problem. And Midoriya, he's been a bit busy helping Mina's family to notice. Now, Midoriya in this time has grown closer and closer to these people. And he actually does consider Mina's father to be somebody to look up to. A man he would like to become one day. And he does just simply wonder what his own father was like. As far as he knows, the man is dead. Or was it just his mother? He would have liked to imagine his father was a good man, and that might have been the reason why he was killed. In this world, bad things happen to good people, and you can't really always explain them. Now, as Midoriya is harvesting a whole lot of the crops today, he actually has put some into a barrel, and proceed to take them over to the barn. Now, as this actually does happen, Midoriya, he would get closer. before he does hear a bit of a small commotion. And he would actually set down the wheelbarrow or the cart he does have and go to check it out. Him running into the barn and seeing Mina's father. The man climbing out of something. All he knows is Mina's father hasn't been seen in a few hours. And all of a sudden he's coming out of the barn. Now, this is quite odd. He didn't know that he was in there. Last thing he heard. What? This makes no sense. Now, Midoriya would quickly hide, watching through the wall, or let's say through a small hole, what Mina's father is doing. The man, he just crawled out of a hole in the ground, and he would put something over it, before quickly making his way out. Now, while this does happen, Midoriya, he actually does hide himself. And he actually does walk into the barn himself, looking at the area where Mina's father was. And actually pushing this, let's say a few hay bales off of whatever this thing or hole in the ground is. And he actually does look at it. It is a large plate of metal, and there are several locks on the ground. Along with that, there actually is the area nearby. It looks like somebody just kicked up a bunch of dirt. What the hell happened here? Now, Midoriya quickly would put the hay bales back in their original place before leaving. And he wouldn't really think anything of it until later on into the night and the next morning. This question's still going throughout Midoriya's mind. Now, Midoriya, he does start to piece a little bit of things together. What he's heard in the nearby village about a monster. The same thing that he's heard, or at least seen, outside. Whatever this beast is. Well, I don't want to just say it's down there. There's no caves nearby, I've already checked. And even then, that's the only place I could really think of. The ground's messed up though. But, no, it's probably just a place to store extra crops. Can't imagine why. Why would he hide it? Does Mina know? Now, Midoriya would just brush us off. And then there is the next day, as he's out in the field helping to harvest more crops and plant seeds, along with plowing the land. Now, Midoriya, he actually does look around, trying to find Mina's father. And he doesn't really see anyone, as he does think about it for a minute, wondering about that key. As he does think to himself, as he does continue on doing work, there must be a bunch of keys he needs to get. However, trying to piece it all together, every 3 or 4 days something happens. There's attacks or sightings. Whatever this strange monster is nearby the village, if you look at it close enough, there's somewhat of a pattern. Along with Mina's father's strange behavior, Midoriya deciding to stay up later tonight and hopefully catch Mina's father. Now, with that being said, Midoriya, he falls asleep that night. this being where Mina's father would check on him before checking on Mina. Now, we do have Midoriya getting up and climbing out of his window as he would make his way around the house in the dark. Now, he would watch Mina's father, the man with a small little lantern, or some strange lighting device. He can see the flame clearly inside of it, and he just begins to slowly walk forwards, making sure to carefully not step on anything on the ground. Now, he would watch between the boards as Mina's father would move the hay bales, and he would then unlock the doors, or the door with some keys. After that does actually happen, there is what he does see. Him bringing up the heavy metal door, as he would turn around and begin to climb down, before grabbing the bucket he does have. As he does make his way down, Midoriya would look in, and actually begin to follow. As soon as he actually does walk into the barn, he does look at the keys on the ground, before looking down into the hole, trying to carefully see what is down there. Now, Midoriya, he is able to somewhat see. There must be a small room, however, it is lit up by that torch, or whatever he has, along with what could be described as a few candles. Midoriya being able to actually see piles of bones down there, and what he would believe to be more and more, well, trails of blood. He can't really tell, let alone make it out. Now, Midoriya would quickly get away whenever he heard footsteps going back towards the ladder. Now, Midoriya made sure to try and wipe his tracks as he was getting out of the barn, before running around to the side of the house once more and jumping into his window. Now, as this does actually happen, we do have the next day, where Midoriya, he is actually in the barn, and he's doing what he was told to do, which is to move things out so that they can actually take them into town. As Midoriya does do this, he decides to move the hay bales. As he does so, he would find the metal door, as he would talk to Mina's father about this, asking him about exactly what is this thing. Oh, young man, you move the hay bales. Yeah, I thought we were taking them into town. I moved them and then I found this panel? What is this? I tried moving it, but it's stuck to the floor. I see. Well, young man, that place down there, it's very old. In fact, my grandfather dug it out. We use it to store crops, and, well, keep certain things safe from the cold, along with actually storing various meats. It's very cold down there. I see. Alright then. I was kind of curious. I've never seen this before. Oh, well, we've had instances where people sneak onto the farm and break into it. They think that we store money down there or valuables. Okay. Well, I was just curious. Midoriya and Mina's father heading into town, as they would unload the equipment and everything they have to sell. Now, Midoriya, he's been doing this for a very long time. He can tell whenever somebody is lying, someone is trying to shift him away from finding out what this is. Along with actually, whenever he was walking around the town, trying to spend a little bit of this money, he heard about it. Again, last night there was an attack. And then someone said that earlier today they saw something. Now, this was quite a surprise, and Midoriya wanted to know what was going on. Now, as they do head back into, well, their farmland, we do have, whenever they get home, they would sit down and have breakfast. Or, not breakfast, they would sit down later that night and have dinner. Everyone seeming hunky-dory. In fact, in a very, very good mood. Now, this would be whenever Midoriya he is eating his stew, talking about how it's really good, and that this is some of the best food he's had in a very long time. Mina's mother, obviously at least thanking Midoriya for the compliment. Mina talking about how Midoriya should just stay around here. He basically just works here, doesn't he? Well, yeah, I sort of do. I mean, it's the least I could do for you guys saving me and all, right? Well, young man, you could always look for another job. Well, thank you. But I think I'll be fine. What do you mean? Well, I mean, I like it here. I know you guys don't pay me very much, but to be honest with you, this is a lot easier than what I used to do before, you know? Yes. What exactly did you do before? I know you didn't like talking about it, but you've been with us for so long. And that sword is still in your room. You haven't sold it for money. I think you could catch a good price with it. Well, you're right about that. Swords are very expensive right now. Especially with the level of craftsmanship I've seen on that blade. What are you talking about? Well, it's decorated, and the way the hilt is. A lot of things about that sword are fancy. If I were to sell the sword, I can probably still have a lot of money left over. Yeah, that's a good idea. You could get rid of it. We could have more money and we could probably survive a little bit longer. Come on, Dad. I know the farm business isn't going very well for us right now. Heck. We're getting stretched thin on meat. Plus, I don't know what's happening. The cows disappeared yesterday. The cows? Oh, yeah. What is it? A little bit of ways, Mina pointing in a direction, saying that way they have another barn. And they do actually keep animals there. Although, they do have to keep them locked up. Okay, why? Well, I mean, we've had instances with the animals in the forest, so it's not really that much of a surprise. Now, with that, their conversation does get back on topic quickly. The man telling Midori that he just sell the sword and keep the money himself. Take it and he can possibly just leave and go find a place to be alone, possibly. Midori is saying that he would rather stay here actually. He would give them as much money as he could. And the only thing he would really want to do is buy himself a new sword. That one's a bit too fancy for his taste. Young man, you don't have to do any of this for us. But I want to. Please. I want to stay here. I mean, granted, the sword I probably won't use very often, but I do at least want to help protect you all. Protect us? Yes. Listen, all my life I've grown up. I've never had a chance to be a kid. Here it's great. Granted, I have chores. I never really had those before, other than picking up after a bunch of drunk people, but I mean, still, you're the closest thing to a family I really do have. This taking Mina's family aback. The man, at least, somewhat having an angry expression come across his face, along with Mina's mother, who actually has somewhat begun to tear up. Them asking Midoriya if he can please leave the table for a minute, or at least please go to his room. Now, Midoriya, he does actually just leave the table, and he would hear a bit of an argument ensue outside. Now, eventually hours would have passed, and Midoriya is lying in his bed. Him falling asleep, up until he is woken up. He doesn't know what's happening. All he knows is that his hands are bound, and so are his legs. And he's being held by somebody. Now, Midoriya, he would be able to piece it together. He's being carried by something. And he would be able to make eye contact with it the moment that he tries to move, and it would try to grab him and get him back into place. Midoriya is being held over something's shoulder, and this is quite odd. Midoriya, him making direct eye contact with the creature, as he is being, well, kidnapped, you could say. I believe that's the correct word for it. Now, Midoriya does just simply try and scream out and call for help. And this does not work. This being where Midoriya, he would find that he is quickly silenced whenever he is thrown down somewhere. And then there is what he would see next. Midoriya opening his eyes and looking around to a candle-lit room, looking up as he does look on in horror. The beast that just dropped him. It has red skin, horns, and as it does get up closer to him, it has pitch black eyes, along with its jagged teeth. Midoriya quickly just moving backwards, and scraping his hands against the ground, as he does actually try and reach out for anything that he could use as a weapon. Now, Midoriya would find something sharp as it did poke him very hard. Midoriya quickly using it to untie his hands and untie his legs, or to cut the bonds holding them. Now, as that does actually happen, Midoriya, he does try to get onto his feet, looking at this strange beast. The way it's looking at him, Midoriya trying to at least acknowledge his existence. What the hell are you? The beast opening its mouth and trying to speak. It's making sounds that are eerily similar to human speech. And Midoriya being quite shocked. Him trying to ask it once again, what is this thing? And what the hell does it want with him? Now, Midoriya looks around the room as this thing begins to make its way eerily closer to Midoriya, closing the gap as he does watch its mouth begin to flood with drool. Now, Midoriya would take a skull he finds on the ground And he does still have that piece of sharpened bone. Midoriya rushing forwards quickly, as the beast does go to try and bite down on Midoriya. Midoriya being able to at least get a strike in, hitting this thing across the face, as he did try and leap and get Midoriya by his own. The moment Midoriya hit this thing with a skull, it sunk its teeth into Midoriya's right shoulder, and Midoriya screamed out in pain, the loudest he's ever screamed in his entire life, as he actually would bring the skull back up and go to slam it down, over and over and over, along with trying to use this piece of bone, trying to stab this thing any way he can. And this thing just keeps a hold on Midoriya firmly, as it does try and pick Midoriya up by his legs, it trying to swallow Midoriya whole and eat him. Now, the moment that Midoriya is able to get above its head, and this thing finally lets go of Midoriya, he would throw the skull directly into its mouth, before bringing the sharp piece of bone over his head and stabbing it down directly into this thing's face. The moment this thing actually does go to reach back and drop Midoriya, he does just push forwards, as all of his body weight goes down onto this piece of bone, impaling the beast through its very head. Now, as it does actually happen, Midoriya would fall and land on another pile. Looking around the small room, it's covered in blood, and it is also covered in bones. Midoriya quite horrified, as he does look at the piles more closely. These things are small, the bones. What are these things? Him figuring out that some of them, or at least most of the bones here, are human, before trying to climb out of the ladder. Now, after Midoriya does climb out of the ladder, he does try and get out of the barn, trying to go get help. Whatever this monster was, it almost killed him tonight. Now, this would be whenever he quickly does encounter Mina's father and Mina's mother, watching both of these two, as they're quite surprised when Midoriya opened the door to the barn, and he's just standing there with the sword Midoriya had. And Midoriya, he just looks in pain and confusion. Huh? You're too late. I killed it already. You killed it? Yes. It almost got me. But don't worry, I'll be okay. I need some help. Midoriya going to reach out for help. However, this would be whenever Mina's father, he does just walk towards Midoriya, and using the blade's case or sheath made of metal, smacking Midoriya with it across the side of his ribcage. Midoriya, alarmed by this, as he does go to hit the ground. Mina's father going on to talk about how he is stupid. Now, Midoriya is quite surprised by that. The man going on to hit him over and over again with the metal sheath, talking about how he can't have killed him. He can't have killed their son. This alarming Midoriya. Their son? What are you talking about? Midoriya says. The man reaching down and trying to choke Midoriya with his bare hands, talking about how he's been sick, he's been cursed, and they were trying to find a way to break it. They were going to pawn his sword and call a witch to break the curse. They just needed time and money, and they finally had it. They just needed to feed their boy for one more night, and it all would have been over. The man shouting with tears in his eyes, as Mina's mother tries to talk down her husband, trying to tell him that it's all alright now, and that the curse couldn't have been undone. They know that. The man shouting out that she knows nothing before he does go to backhand her, this giving Midoriya a chance, as he does actually look around the ground, grabbing a rock on it and slamming against Mina's father's head. As he does actually do this, he's able to catch his breath, and the burning in his lungs goes away, as he tries to get back onto his feet, as he does actually go for the sword. Now, the moment that Midoriya does go for the sword, he quickly rips it out of the sheath, and watches as the sheath hits the ground, making a thud. And with that, Midoriya does hold the sword, with one hand. The man, with tears in his eyes, talking about how their life should have been different. This is all wrong, and that Midoriya killed his only son. He is a little bastard. He knew that they should have just fed him to them, instead of just thinking that they can play pretend. Midoriya confused by all this. Him going on to state that his wife wanted to replace their son, their baby boy, and he played her little game. He played it for as long as he could. But he is a good father, he is a good man, and he will do anything for his boy. As he does try and rush Midoriya, in pure absolute rage. Now, Midoriya just holds the sword up, and the man just runs into it, as he does try and pin Midoriya up against the wall. Now, as he does actually pin Midoriya against the wall, these two slam into a metal post, or a wooden post, and a lantern that was hanging does actually fall and break. Midoriya watching on, as the man, he has a sword through his chest, and Midoriya, he actually has watched as he falls and lands on his back. Midoriya quite shocked, the woman running over and trying to see if her husband is alive. Now, the man is quickly bleeding out and dying, as he's cursing his wife, cursing her that she was this way, she ruined them all, and that they are all destined to die. Now, Midoriya is standing in the barn door, watching, his hands covered in blood as this place is quickly catching fire. Now, somebody does actually come out of the house, looking on to see what's happening. And there you do have Mina, watching as Izuku is staring at her mother, who is quickly on fire. Now, the area around her just begins to collapse, and she is consumed by the flames. Midoriya watching on in horror, as his panic quickly accelerates, and he actually just does begin to scream uncontrollably, as tears fill his eyes. Mina just watching as Midoriya takes off running, and he doesn't look back, he just starts running. Mina's just staring confused, until the next morning, whenever it is discovered what happened at the Ashido farm. Now, it is found that Mina's family, they were cursed, and that their products might have been tainted, along with the fact that many different people and children around the place, the village, have gone missing. And the number of missing residents do somewhat match up with the skeletons they found underneath that barn. Now, Mina, she does try and state that she has nothing to do with this. She doesn't even know what's going on. However, they ignore her pleas, and she is found guilty, and is given capital punishment, as she is hanged for her curse and the sins of her family. Now, with that dark plot over, I do hope you guys enjoyed. And as I did say, this story was going to be dark. But anyway, guys, have an amazing night.